What is up, everyone? Today we have a killer tier list for the winter update of 2023. We are going to rank all the killers from best to worst, and we will give you an accurate depiction of their power, strength, and overall state of the game at this point. Starting off the list, in F tier, we are going to be going from F to S, listing off the killers in a somewhat order of basically this is an accurate of exactly what order the killers are to the dot. Like, there might be a couple that's interchangeable, but we're gonna mostly try to do this tier list in a way that has every killer ranked from like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So starting off the list in F tier, we have Trapper. A very fun killer in certain circumstances. You can have a lot of funny moments, clips, and all that. If the survivors run into him, which is always fun. It's always hilarious to catch someone in a trap. However, when it comes to the level of competition, it's a very steep hill, and honestly, he just falls short in a couple aspects. And I just feel like he is probably the worst killer in the game. Moving on to the second worst killer in the game. Now, I've played many games with this killer. I've gone against this killer, and I've never once thought there was an unfair mechanic or anything. But I've never once played a killer and enjoyed it either. And I've mostly speaking from experience when saying this, but this killer just feels awful to play. Terrible to play as. It feels hilarious when I get them in a game because I just make fun of them the whole time, and I have zero problem looping them. They're just the easiest killer, the freest killer in my opinion. The Pig. I think this killer is very weak. I don't see any strengths this killer has or any reason why you would play this killer other than you're trying to tunnel somebody out with a trap on their head, or you have to go for the achievement of getting 125 traps on survivors. Now, closing off the F tier. This may be a hot take. I think Michael Myers closes off the F tier. This killer has potential add-ons that are kind of crazy, but as a whole, I think he just falls short of the balance of every other killer in the game. And honestly, I feel as though he's not worthy enough of being D tier, but he's definitely the peak of F tier, for sure. He's not very good at this game. I think he has the tombstone piece, which is good, but that's about all he really has going for him, honestly. So that's the whole F tier. Next, moving on to the D tier. Now, the worst killer, the fourth worst killer in the game, we have to go to Freddy
Fazbear.
the Nightmare himself. Freddy has teleport to gens, which is good, but his dream snares, his dream pallets can only do so much. Giving someone the hindered effect for like half a second when they step in a puddle does almost nothing. The dream pallets can be fun. They can be fun to play at if you get them to throw them down and you just get the free hit. But against any experienced survivor, they're going to be able to sniff it out. It's going to be just hell on earth when you're trying to play as him. He's basically Pig, just better. So that's why he goes into D tier. The next killer on this list, my favorite killer in the entire game, and this pains me to say it just because he got a rework, if you will call it a rework, I don't know, change, is Trickster. He feels horrible to play right now. He feels disgusting, and not in a good way. He feels disgusting as I want to vomit every time I play as him because it is gross. He feels horrible to play as. They tried to shift some of his power, and in my opinion, he's just garbage. He is not a good killer. He is definitely bottom 5 in my opinion, and this killer is just not very strong at all in this current state. It pains me so much because I love Trickster. He was my main when I first started the game, and I love playing Trickster. I love him. I love his character design. I love everything about him except for the gameplay. Now, moving on, I think this is where the kind of shift from D- to D really comes in because the next killer is Ghostface. Ghostface is a fun killer. I will say he's a fun killer, and I don't think he's necessarily very weak. I think his being able to expose and down survivors is cool. He's able to sneak around the map much better than any pig could, even though he can crouch and do the same thing. He's just a better pig and a better Michael. He just does what they do better, in my opinion. So for that reason, he's just a tier above them in D tier. The next killer on this list, I'll have to put Clown. Now, in past tier lists we've made on this channel, I've kept my personal vendetta against this killer and put him way higher than he deserved to be. Since then, I've played as him. I've played almost every killer on this list, and the ones I haven't, a partner Nick here has, so he can give better insight. But I feel like Clown to play as is just that is the perfect way I can describe it. It's just His bottles feel like you need to reload him so much, and it's just like his powers feeling like it leaves you wanting just a little bit more. He does have the add-on to make you insta down if you hit them, which is very good and lets him camp very well. But other than that, he really it's just this pull dynamic where you're left wanting a little bit more, and there's just a perfect way to play around his power. However, there are clowns that just play him perfectly and have a lot of success, and he could be really good. But I feel like the killer as a whole is just held back a little bit because you're just left there wanting just a little bit more. Next killer I have on this list, and I think it's going to be a little bit controversial for where they are on the list. I'm putting Legion. The Four Little Stooges, Legion. This character had a lot of potential because on our last tier list, it was about this healing change, which is going to be crazy change that they were thinking about bringing in, which would make healing take 24 instead of 16. That change would have been insane, would have made this killer way better. However, I feel like in this state, the killer is okay. It doesn't excel in anything. It's against uncoordinated teams, they can be quite good. However, against coordinated teams, this killer's almost useless. Like his ability to run fast, vault over pallets and whatnot, that's be cool. The add-on to make you break stuff after you vault over a pallet, that's good. However, with the addition of this one killer who just does what I think Legion does, but infinitely better in every single aspect, puts Legion in the mediocre tier of D. Now, my next killer on this tier list goes to one of the base killers, one of the original OGs, if you will. The killer that rings a bell and goes invisible. The Wraith. A good Wraith can be quite good. However, if you're not a good Wraith, he has stuff going for him, like he's able to break stuff fast, he's able to run really fast while in invis, he's able to catch survivors off guard and can really catch them if they're in a bad spot and really get free hits. However, that's about all he can really do. He has nothing extraordinary about him. He's just very average. And unfortunately, in this state of DBD, average is not going to get you anywhere. You need that extra oomph. You need that extra something in this state because of what the killers have that are above him, just have that little bit much more that just puts him further back. Now, the last killer rounding out this D tier, in my opinion, would be Doctor. Doctor has good information with his big shock. His mini shocks with the right add-ons can really expedite downs if done at the right loops. I feel like a normal Doctor has a lot going for him, a lot more than any of the killers already named. However, when it really comes down to it, what normal survivors are going to usually know how to play against a Doctor, and he just doesn't have that. Like he also suffers from what I think Clown suffers from, where he's just left winning just a little bit more, just something more. Because I feel like, in my experience, the best way to play against Doctor is just pre-drop and run, and like it doesn't even matter. Your madness does not matter at all. It's like, so it's just like as a Doctor player, just like, well, dang. But I feel like his power and what he has going for him is a lot better than what previous killers have, and I think that's why he rounds out the top of D tier. Moving on to C tier. Now this tier is going to be quite filled. We're going to start with my beloved dumb little big boy Bubba. This killer, I love him to death. I love him to death, and maybe that's probably why he's all this high. But I feel like instant break pallet can never go wrong. Like he has the add-on that can make him run faster the more he uses charges, the longer he's sawing. I feel like that's quite solid. Like he's a very solid killer. And against average survivors, he can be quite good because they're not gonna have the timing down to the stun. However, against great survivors or just high level survivors, playing against Bubba, if they have decent ping, can be tough. It can be really tough. However, Bubba, I just feel like basement Bubba, you know, the camping, because even with the new camping mechanic that makes it where you can't face camp or anything, he still has all that potential to just be able to wreak havoc on you if he gets you in basement. So I think he's a very mediocre killer, and I think C tier you'll really see how they're strong, but not. But they have there's a couple things holding them back from really hitting the upper echelons of the BA and S. Now the next killer on this C tier would go to the other chainsaw boyo, the Hillbilly. Hillbilly does everything Bubba does, but in my opinion, he does it just a little bit better. I think his add-ons are garbage, but having played both of them, I just find Billy, with enough like playing him, is just better in every way. His chainsaw you could rev it the same way. You can insta down, you can break pallet, you can. But the thing that he has more is he's able to traverse the map, which Bubba does not have. So basically, he's just Bubba, but with one more thing. But with worse add-ons, but I think that one thing makes him better. So, but now we have another killer, which I see is also doing the same thing they do, just better. Because, like I said, what was the reason Billy was better than Bubba? Map traversability. And what does this killer have that they both have? Better map traversability. I'm putting Demogorgon right before Billy as the next killer. Demogorgon can break pallets. The only thing Demogorgon can't do is insta down. But the how fast his shred comes out, it's in a lunge, I argue could potentially even be better than, I don't know how many of people have gone against a Demogorgon who's been able to jump over entire like pieces of terrain, like on some of the Auto Haven maps, but that is just the most baffling thing. And Demogorgon's portals actually take quite a little bit of time to deactivate it if you're doing it by yourself. And I think for that reason, the Demogorgon, with its tunnels, with its pallet shredability, with the fact that it's lunge, with some of the hits that they're just able to get, is just better than the two Chainsaw Boys. Next killer to be in C tier, I'd have to go with the Nemesis. Resident Evil. Man with the whip. The Nemesis, I think, is a very decent killer. He's very okay. He's very okay killer. That's what you'll notice a lot with the C tier. They're very okay. He has his zombies. He has his tentacles. But if he doesn't get up to like at least the tier 2 within the first gen, I feel like you start really noticing how you're falling behind. Now, once you get to tier 3, things start to change, and his whip being as long as it is insane. But the thing with Nemesis, and what you'll see is what the killer next to him is, he has to hit you with the whip once, hit you again to injure you, hit you again to down you. But I feel like a good Nemesis, can find a lot of success in this game. And I think this is where you'll start to see a turning point of killers that really struggle to killers that could really find success within the game, and you can really start to find a lot of at least 3Ks. The next killer on this list, and rounding out what I would consider the C- of this tier list, would go to the new killer, the Xenomorph, the alien. Xenomorph, in my opinion, does everything Nemesis does, just better. They're just a better Nemesis, in my opinion. Their tail attack, I feel, is very similar to the whip attack, different in a couple aspects, of course, but I feel like the tail attack does what it does, just it's the same thing almost. But she has map traversability, which Nemesis does not have. However, Nemesis has the zombies, which can give you information. But I feel like the map traversability and being able to hear stuff and be undetectable when hearing it gives you just that little bit more. And the only reason she's held back is because the turrets take away her whole gimmick of the tail attack and takes it away. And so that's why this would be running out the C- of the tier list, if you will. Moving on to what I would consider the C+. I put Slinger. First killer in this little sub section of this tier list. I feel like Slinger, able to shoot you with long range, he able to affect you with the deep wound state, which I think is not something to scoff at. I feel like the range and some of the hits you're able to get, and how if he just shoots you, he doesn't even have to like hit you. If he just shoots you once while you're healthy, boom, deep wound. Doesn't even matter. In the right hands, has good potential. Even in mediocre hands, can be quite good. He's also, I find, quite a fun killer I've seen. I've never personally played the killer, but from experience and what I've noticed, is this killer just can pull off some stuff you just would never expect. And for that reason, I put him in the higher end of C tier. Now, I know my partner here, Nick, is not going to like what I'm about to say here, but the next killer in the C tier would have to be Dreg. Now, the Dreg has a lot going for them. They are killers with a lot good mobility, can make your just eyes go blind, make you not even able to use your eyes. They can do their little thing where they can bleep back to where they're at in a loop, which can be quite good in certain loops. However, and what I'll say is they're a stronger killer than some of the other kills I've said this for, but you're just left wanting just that tiny little bit more. Just that tiny little more. That's all you want. If they had that, they'd definitely be a good B, high B, low A, in my opinion. But the killer teleport 3 times in lockers, has a lot of pretty solid add-ons. However, I feel like overall, on average, this killer is top of C tier. And the last killer I would put in the C tier would have to go to Pinhead. Now, I hate going against this killer. I hate the chain mechanic. I hate it so much. He's single-handedly the most annoying killer in this game. For this reason, I feel like it works for his benefit. It's the agonizing annoyingness that he provides that makes survivors play in a way that's like a little bit more on like riskiness, if you will. Like his box, if he finds the box, how everyone screams, gets the chains on them, stops what they're doing. If he shoots you with his chain, you're just stop. You can't. You're taking a hit basically. Since the killer has no mobility, but they have information, and for that reason, and how annoying the chains are, and how much impact they really do have in a game against the average survivor, the average solo queue, this killer cannot be anything but the top of C tier. And that's going to round off the C tier. Now we're moving on to the B tier. This B tier is going to be slightly smaller, but these killers I feel like are just where you start to get to the upper echelon where, yeah, these killers kind of just can do really whatever they want and usually get about at least two kills, maybe usually 2 to 3 kills. And now starting the B tier, what I would consider the B minus of the tier, we start with Knight, the Knight. I feel like the Knight, when played correctly, insane potential. There's little you can do when the Knight is accurate with their guards, because there's nothing you can do about the guards except for try to run them in a circle and get back to the flag. The Knight basically is 2 killers versus your one self. You have to think about where's the guard going to be if he puts the guard out. You gotta really loop in a very unique way when you're versing a Knight, which if you do that, you can negate a lot of his pressure. However, a good Knight or even a normal Knight understands this and will play around the audio. And the fact that his guards are able to damage gens from far away, break things, adds for a lot of mix-up in this gameplay. And I really do believe, having played this killer and having how much fun I've had on this killer and really understanding how this killer works, puts him at the lower end of B tier for sure. The last killer I'd consider in this B minus tier, if you will, would be to the twins. Now, this is not a killer I own, but there's a killer who I've seen a lot of potential in. Having 2 different entities can really set up a lot of great things. Having what I've really noticed playing through a very uncoordinated game of Hex Totems and the twins, have found that they're able to protect that Hex Totem, Hex Devour to Hope, very well, able to play around it, able to hold a 3-gen incredibly, and really able to just have their way with the match if they really wanted to. Nick, I feel like you probably could have some words on this. What do you think about this killer?
Twins is hella dope. Victor's cool as shit. And legit, a good twins. I'm making a case tippy top of B. But an average twins, I think fits pretty well in like the middle of B, lower end. So really no complaints from me, but they're really fun. And we need to see more twins out and about. That's my official statement on the matter.
Thank you. Moving on to what I consider the B plus. Now, these killers, I'd say from this part on, these killers are disgusting. I hate them all. I was joking. But no, these killers are just, they have a lot going for them, and they're quite strong killers, I'd say. Starting off this list with a killer I despise, I hate this killer, this gross, I want the behavior to delete him, please. School Merchant. This killer, awful. 3-gen Merchant, horrible. It's not even that they have to be a 3-gen, it's just disgusting, gross gameplay. I hate it so much. I hate this killer, please remove the behavior. I hate the fact this killer is in the game. Awful. Gameplay snooze, awful trash, I don't care. Moving on, I hate this killer. We got one of the newer killers. We got the machine itself. We got the Singularity. The Singularity can do basically what Skull Merchant can, but in a more creative and lucrative way. I think he has a lot of potential with the fact that he gets overclocked or whatever it's called, and is able to just face pallets, just take it to the head and get the hit, which is really good. I think this killer, with how much it's able to teleport and with the mechanic of if you're near someone else who is infected by his little blob, you get infected too, is really cool. But the fact that he has counterplay also and doesn't make him oppressive. But however, I feel like with how much time it takes to get the EMPs out of the chest, it's insane. I love the stupid animation you make when he's open. You have to poke the little number pad. I assume that's what you're supposed to be doing to get the thing out. The EMP. It's really cool.
You gotta get the chest
I think this
off.
killer. Okay. Moving on. We have Sadako in her new state. Ever since her rework, I feel like this killer has turned even more into what she was where it's just teleport, 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 blah, 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 to the end of time until you're able to be moried, and that is gross, not fun, not engaging at all. But there's easy kind of play with it. It's the tape. Just grab a tape. You're fine. This killer, I feel like, is just infinitely better of what she used to be. She used to be garbage. She used to be trash. However, now she's oppressive. I feel it's a gross, disgusting way to play, and I just feel like it's quite a strong character at this point in time. Moving on to the last character in the B tier, we have Huntress. In our last tier list, we had her in A. I thought she was strong. I was only taking account the normal Huntress. Having played Huntress and seeing how she works, you really do have to commend the Huntresses that are pinpoint accurate and basically are snipers, because that axe will get it touches literally the outer hitbox of like a tree that doesn't even look like it's a hitbox. It breaks. It's literally a little noodle. However, Huntress has so much possibilities, so much like going for her. The possibilities on this killer are endless. Some of the hits you can get are insane. This killer is just very like the potential of this killer is to be S tier. However, the average of this killer, averaging out the weaknesses and strengths, this killer's B tier. I think the best of the B tier that has to offer for sure. Moving on to top tier killers. This is where the killers really start to get into a tier of their own, and I feel like the bottom of A tier belongs to Wesker. This killer dashes, infect you to make you slower, instant downable if he uses his power on you, forces you to use the spray bottles, shows where you are. This killer is quite strong in every facet, and I've thought this since release. I've thought this killer was quite strong, and it's just now that I'm really starting to realize the possibilities of this killer, having played and really understanding how this killer works, that this killer is able to vault over vaults with his power. Just like the possibilities are insane. And I really do think this killer is the bottom of A. Next killer on this list, and what I consider the last part of the A minus tier, if you will, the Hag. The Hag is a killer whose potential is up there. This killer has potential with the right setup at the beginning to be insanely gross. Gross killer to play against. Able to teleport to her little dummies or whatever they're called. Able to really traverse the map insanely, able to block things against uncoordinated teams, able to jump scare the living lights out of people like it's Nick. I know he's had his fair share of frights against this killer. I just think this killer has a lot of potential and quite strong. There's a lot of potential this killer has, and I feel like even a normal Hag can find a lot of potential knowing how her power works and playing around it, and not just being a mindless little M1 brain. And I feel like that would round out the A minus tier of this, if you would. Moving on to what I consider from this point on incredibly strong killers. They have a lot going for them, and you'll have no problems getting at least 3 to 4 kills with these killers. And starting off that, I'd put Pyramid Head. I've said this since day one. This killer is insane. Able to put you on hook immediately after downing you. Able to zone people because they do not want to get the little barbed wire, step in the barbed wire. People would rather die than step in the barbed wire, which you can play around. The fact he has a projectile through the ground, which is insane, has a lot more range than you actually think. This killer just has a lot going for them. They really do. This killer is very, very strong. Not enough people understand how strong this killer truly is. Moving on, we have Oni. Oni Baloney. This killer, once it gets his first M1, game's over, basically. Against Oni, he's able to he'll just loop you while you're bleeding out the little orbs. And once he has them, he'll just go into his power and sit down everybody. Game over, basically. No, not really. But able to one-shot pallets, able to one-shot you, able to super speed across the map in half a second. This killer is just incredibly strong in its power, and I think that the bottom of or mid of A tier is just there's no much lower this killer can really go. Now, this is where the killers, I feel like, really turn it on, and these are where the 4-kill killers consistently, and these killers are just really strong. First killer of this part would be Artist. Artist, in my opinion, has so much potential, and the only thing holding this killer back is levels. Really levels. If the elevation and level of the map is 2, she loses a lot of her strength. But there's only a couple maps that really have this problem. And as long as Artist isn't on Midwich, you're completely fine. This killer is able to get you off gens, able to get information through her crows, able to down you through her crows, able to do a whole lot, able to like zone you with them. They are so good, and I cannot underemphasize how good her power is and how strong of a killer this killer truly is. She's able to really do a lot. And for that part, she's got to be at the upper part of A tier. Now, this is where the top 5 killers in the game comes out. So at number 5, the number 5 killer we have in this tier list, the Plague. The Plague is able to negate the entire mechanic of healing. You're not able to heal against the Plague unless you're trying to give her red vomit power, which is able to damage you. And in my experience, it's more worth it to be damaged than it is to give her that, because then she can just boom boom you, which is awful to play against. But even now with the made for this nerf, this killer is just better. Like it's an indirect buff to Plague, because you're always injured against Plague and always broken against Plague. So made for this 3% just makes you faster, which makes her worse. However, that's gone now, and it's only if you're under the deep wound effect. So this killer literally just got an indirect buff by nerfing the best survivor perk, and so for that reason, she is the 5th best killer in the game. And now at this point in time, the brand new killer, the little toy doll himself, the good guy, Chucky at number 4 on this tier list. Chucky is the 4th best killer in the game. Chucky came out just a couple weeks ago. This killer is like if the Blight had a little boy, and then he put his life in the doll. This killer is literally just Blight if Blight could go undetectable and was unable to be seen, and was given 3rd person. Like, this killer is crazy. The power of this killer is insane, really. He's able to go under pallets, go undetectable, 3rd person point of view. The amount of the potential of this killer is insane. Plus the fact that, like, he's able to just do so much. This killer is just given so much with his size, his little footsteps everywhere, making you paranoid. The fact that he can go under pallets, the fact that he can even break pallets that he goes underneath with the add-on. Like, then he has a dash that's almost unavoidable at all. He's the 3rd person. This killer just has so much, and it's represented by how much this killer is getting played at this point in time. This killer is just incredibly strong. And the last killer in this A tier, the Spirit. The Spirit is insane. She goes invisible. She's able to just bleep right on you, hit you. I mean, this killer is insane. With her mother-daughter ring and all of her insane add-ons, which actually have been nerfed quite a bit, but it doesn't matter. This killer is still incredibly strong, able to really just do whatever she wants, whenever she wants. It's just an insanely strong killer. And now we have the S tier. The upper echelon of killers, broken killers. This is where the killers become broken, they're OP, and they need changes now. And we start off with Blight. Little is to be said about this killer. There's a reason why he's played in competitive. There's a reason why some may say even the strongest killer. This killer can really just do so much. Traverse the map super fast. He's able to break pallets. He's able to just do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. This killer truly is insane. There's little this killer can't do, and what he can't do, he can circumvent in a different way. This killer is just insane. And for that reason, he has nowhere else to be but the S tier. But there's one killer that edges him out, because she doesn't have a weakness. This killer can do whatever she wants, whenever she wants, and if the player is good enough, there is nothing a survivor can do. The nurse is S. She really deserves to be S+, because she is by far, yes, the strongest killer in this game, and there is nothing a group of survivors can do. If you ever watched a high-level group of survivors versus a high-level nurse, the nurse will always win. The nurse will not always win, but they will win a lot of the times, and these are 4 survivors that are some of the best in the world that can still barely do anything against a very good nurse. This killer is insane. The potential of this killer is unmatched, and this killer is the best in the game. But that is our tier list. We hope you are able to get something from it before this winter update, and you're able to see the strength of killers and really understand the state of the game where we're at right now, going into this 2023 winter update, winter event. And I hope this helps you in some way with your games and understanding the strength of these killers. Comment what you think the killer tier list would be if you could make it, and what you think the killer's strengths are. Got anything else you'd like to say, Nick?
Lego Fortnite, pretty fun.
Okay. We will see y'all next time. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Bye!